The straight leg jump through from downward dog to Dandasana in Ashtanga Yoga is an eloquent movement and can take some time to perfect. It will take a combination of a good forward bend, which is important for keeping the legs straight when you're able to jump through, strong legs to give you the power to lift the hips high enough to keep the legs straight, and strong flexible shoulders which will provide the pivot for the body to move from the back of the mat to the front. Before we jump through with straight legs, we can learn a similar cross legs version. As a start point for the cross legs version, kneel down on the floor with your ankles crossed underneath your sit bones. Then sit back onto the legs, placing your hands by the side of the body, just in front of the feet. Very slowly lift your knees up to create the space to slide the legs out in front of you. Once you are able to slide the legs forward easily, you can then try to start to jump the legs out rather than sliding them. Using the same technique by first lifting the knees up, press the hands into the floor, engage your core and hop the legs through. This practice will give you both core and upper body strength necessary for the jump through. It will also help to create flexibility in the shoulders. Once this process becomes quite effortless, we can then start to use it to jump out of downward facing dog. Once in the dog position, bend your knees, lift the chin to look at the space between the hands, and hop towards the hands, crossing the ankles as you move forwards. Aim to get the sit bones just behind your hands at this point and no further. Once you can land on your sit bones, see if you can then start to jump and bring the sit bones in line with the hands and straighten the legs. Obviously this movement requires more strength, as there's a few moments when you're supporting the body off the floor with your hands only. This process will take some time to get right, so try not to become frustrated. Take your time with this, as you will need to build up the upper body and core strength, and also the necessary shoulder flexibility to move towards the straight leg version. Once you're able to jump through with cross legs with no problems, you are ready to move on. Move into downward dog and spend some time just bunny hopping the legs up. Start with a deep bend in the knees and then lift the hips up high enough to straighten the legs. Stay with this practice until you can lift with straight legs comfortably. This is where your deep forward bend comes into play, as you will need it to be able to create the necessary space once you have lifted the hips high enough to jump the straight legs through the arms. The importance of the gaze point cannot be overstated, as you need to keep the head lifted to see where you are jumping to. If your head is dropped, you will find it much harder to perfect the movement. Using the same philosophy of two movements becoming one that we learned in the How to Jump Back video, the two movements of lifting up the hips and jumping through the legs become one fluid, flowing motion. As soon as you lift up, the legs are becoming straight and moving forwards through the arms. Try to think of it as one movement, one flow, and one motion.